What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ready Break. My name is Brandon Brewer. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Zach. Zach, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, it's going. It's kind of depressing, to be honest. I just got to get that out there. Football ended. The Super Bowl was last Sunday. We talked about it on our last episode. There's still no clear direction for a baseball season this year. Um, I guess March Madness is coming up, which is fun and exciting. We can do brackets and all that stuff, but I don't know how much we can really talk about it this far in advance and really get into it. So we're kind of at a weird holding pattern right now for the show. Um, that being said, how did you spend your first weekend without football?
Um, it was pretty relaxing, I guess. Pretty relaxing weekend. Didn't have anything planned, obviously. Did a little running around town, did a little chores. Not bad. I didn't find myself too bored or anything. So that wasn't too bad. But I do think the the void of not having baseball right around the corner to look forward to sucks. And I agree that this weird little holding pattern we're in is not great simply because uh, so far I don't see much light at the end of the tunnel yet. They did meet for several hours today, which was good. They have been meeting for like 15 minutes at a time or whatever, which is ridiculous. But I don't know. It's gonna somebody's one side or the other is going to have to give in for a deal to be done. You can't make both sides happy at this point because they want totally different things, and I think that's a real bad place to be, and that's probably why it's taken this long to even get to serious negotiations because both sides are standing fast.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Both sides are not really wanting to move too much. For me, I had a pretty just chill weekend watching TV. Wife and I went out to eat yesterday for the first time, and I don't know how long, just the two of us. Uh, the
Nice.
the kids were off at grandma and grandpa's, so we got to enjoy spending time together as adults, which is something that we don't get to do that often
Right.
anymore. Um, and then I did miss not being able to watch football or check my fantasy stats or anything like that, which fantasy's been over for quite a while now. But it's going to be crazy, and not having baseball. I told you earlier, and I sent you a photo of what I did today, and that was I mowed my yard for the first time this year. I live in Florida, so our mowing season typically kicks off a lot sooner than most people. So that's what I did today. I mowed my yard, and I was thinking about it while I was mowing. Usually, when I mow, I listen to spring training baseball games.
Yeah.
Usually, the first few times that I'm out there, I'm listening to the games, and I'm listening to all these young kids that I've never really heard too much about, and I'm listening to how they're performing on the field and all that. And I got kind of sad. I started the show saying that I'm kind of depressed. I got really sad when I realized that I couldn't listen to baseball,
Yeah.
and it sucks. And I really hope that they figure it out because if the only news that we get to report during this whole year leading up into the start of the next football season is that the Steelers are going to most likely have Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback, and that's big news, then we are in a world of hurt as far as the show is concerned. We do have the news that the XFL is officially going to be a partner with the NFL. So I think that's pretty significant. That's pretty cool. It makes more sense why The Rock has been so involved with NFL this season. We all knew that he was the owner of the XFL, and it was like, well, is he just trying to get in good with football fans? But it turns out there was an agreement or a partnership this whole time. What do you think? You think that the XFL can finally make something of itself?
I think this is its best chance. The last time it came around, it was a very good product, and I thoroughly enjoyed
Yeah.
it. And COVID kind of killed it, which is not really its fault. I think this is the next evolution of a football league that can coincide with the NFL. We all know that the NFL is a complete juggernaut in the sports world entirely, let alone American style football. So for a league to try to compete with the NFL is kind of a dumb idea to begin with, even if you do have your games on their off season. It's just not the same product. You don't have the exact same talent level and stuff like that. So I think this kind of partnership and being like a stepping stone, if you will, for the NFL is a good idea. I've read that they're going to, test out rules and stuff like that for the NFL, kind of like the MLB does in their minor leagues. So that's pretty cool. You'll get to see some unique rules and some interesting rules and see what works and see what doesn't. I think that'll be cool.
Yep. I think they also said they're going to test out different like JV, if you will, referees who may also get the call up to be NFL referees one day, which I think is a great way to get these guys ingrained in learning how to be a referee and learning how to call a game on the fly and stuff like that. And it could very well be that this is the next crop of talent that we see in the NFL. Yeah. As we were talking before we went live, like this is going to be an opportunity for some of these guys that are playing in the XFL to make their way onto NFL rosters next season, because their seasons are just going to flow right into each other. And I think, like we had PJ Walker, who was one of the standouts from the XFL back a couple years ago. He is still on the Carolina Panthers roster as a backup quarterback. And maybe we see more and more players that kind of make a name for themselves and then end up in the bigs, if you will.
Right.
But it's kind of cool that they're going to be using these referees as kind of like a way to test out, are they going to be up to snuff? And tonight on the show, we actually have a referee joining us that has officiated high school football games, high school baseball games, basketball games. He just is coming off I believe a state playoff game, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a longtime friend of the show, so it's good to have our good friend Ian Buchanan, otherwise known as Growing Up 8-Bit, back on the show with us tonight.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How's it going?
How you doing, buddy? It's been a while since we've had you on, and I think last time we had you on, there was some technical issues that kind of glitched you out at the end, and we didn't really get a chance to say goodbye properly. But it's good to have you back. Tell us a little bit what you're doing now that football's over, baseball hasn't started yet. I know you're a hockey fan, but what is it that's keeping you busy right now?
Oh man, so we just finished up basketball season, so we're rolling into a state basketball tournament. Just got my first assignment for a state playoff game for tomorrow night, so that will be fun. And just started baseball. So baseball started for me, kind of crossed over into basketball by about a week, 2 weeks. So
nice.
We were winding basketball down and revving baseball up.
Now, you're refereeing basketball, correct?
Yes.
But you're coaching baseball.
Coaching baseball. I gave up umpiring this year, so I've been umpiring baseball for about 7-8 years. I've done that. And so gave that up, got the opportunity to coach this year, actually coach with my old varsity coach, John Stafford. I don't know if you remember John.
I do remember John.
John offered me the job. Actually came up to me, told me, he goes, Ian, you weren't the best player I ever had. And I was like, this is not a way to ask for a favor. But he said, you love the game and you're one of the smartest players I ever had. Nice. So asked me to come on to kind of help him in that role, be a first base coach for both JV and varsity, and then kind of be a primary outfielder coach.
Yeah, that's cool. That's something that's, a lot of the head coach types. That's something that they kind of look for, is you don't have to be the greatest player ever to be a coach. You just have to know the game and be smart. And I think a lot of people that don't necessarily have a great career or whatever end up being great managers, great coaches, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. I would imagine you have a fun time doing that.
Yeah, it's been different because I'm coaching for a school that I didn't go to. I don't live in the county. Brandon knows what I'm talking about when I say Avery. So it's the county right next to where my kids go to school, where I went to school. It's kind of the big rivals. And so I'm coaching these players in this team that really, when I played, I couldn't stand. And so now, like, these guys, man, a great group of guys, and I'm like, I can't wait till we go back to where I live, to Mitchell, and we just beat the brakes off of them. Like, I'm excited about beating the team where my kid goes to school.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, but you're an adult now, so your high school loyalties can kind of get thrown to the side. It's not like you're still representing the Mountaineers or anything. So I feel it. You have an opportunity to kind of break in as a coach, and maybe this is another avenue that you can continue to pursue in the sports world. I know you've been a referee for a long time for a lot of sports, going back to, I believe you were refereeing wrestling for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So what is it that led to you wanting to become a referee?
Oh man, so the whole pro wrestling thing, that started back in like 2006, 2007, and I went to a show at an armory in Spruce Pine. Yeah. Oh man,
Look at that.
that was like me, like 130, 40 pounds. Hey, he went on to WWE and AEW currently, so he's doing a lot better than me.
Nice.
But went to a show and they were like, "Hey, we don't have a ref. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And so I started doing these armory shows, and man, it grew from there to where I was actually actively going to TNA when it used to be on Spike TV back in 2009, 2010. I've done a couple of shows for Explosion in Europe, which was their European Impact. And then, that was like my first thing into reffing, and kind of got out of that, and it went into, that's the NWA Anarchy. That's my first TV broadcast show. It was on all these local stations across the country, but you had to have a giant satellite dish in your yard to be able to pick up the stations that it was broadcast on. But man, I got to referee some guys, Jerry Lawler. I got to be in the ring with Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Ricky Steamboat's kid's very first match. Had Al Snow hit me with head one time. So
That's awesome.
Reed and David Flair before Reed passed away, or before David passed away. Man, I've been in the ring with so many guys, and that was fun. And that kind of got, when that dream kind of died off and it was like, okay, I can't do this, then I started umpiring. And from umpiring, it come into, hey, we need high school officials for football. And so I done football for the first year. And then that's turned into, we need basketball officials. And so, so they just kind of snowballed. And what's cool is, being an official, it really opens the doors, because there's such a shortage for officials across the state and even in college, that the opportunity is there to really move up and progress. And if you love the sport, what better way to be a part of it? If you can't play it, you still get to be part of the game. And to be out there on a Friday night at a football game, you still get them nerves and that excitement right before kickoff, like I did 15 years ago. Or, if it's basketball, getting ready for that tip, and I've got my arm up ready to start the clock, and, you've got that going, our first pitch in baseball. So you still get them nerves and excitement, even though you've been out of the game for, in my case, 17 years this year.
Yeah, I can understand that. It definitely seems like it would be something that would bring you back. We do have a question from our commenters. They were asking who that wrestler was that you were raising their hand, that you said went on to be in WWE and other federations.
So that was he wrestled back then as Stephen Walters, and he wrestled in WWE as Dash Wilder, part of the Revival, and then wrestles in AEW as Cash Wheeler, part of FTR.
Okay. I now that you say those names, I have heard of him before. That's cool. He had a pretty good run in WWE, and then now you said like he's in AEW as one of the premier tag teams on that company as well. I don't know if you heard it or not, but Zach and I, before you came on, we were talking about the XFL joining forces with the NFL and how they're going to be using, not the NFL officiating crews, but they're going to be bringing in officiating crews that could potentially work their way up to being NFL refs. What do you think of that? Like, do you think that that's a great idea for them to kind of get their feet wet in the game? And how stoked would you be to get that kind of opportunity?
Oh man, I love the XFL. So if they can make it that far, you know, I was a little upset when you threw out PJ Walker. You didn't throw out Tyler Heineke either from the Battle Hawks. But
I didn't know that. That's cool.
If to me, the more opportunities you have, the more avenues it gives people. So they can only be so many officials on a field during a season. So, you know, if you've got multi-sports guys like me who are doing baseball, or, you know, they'll have spring football now, you kind of got to choose a lane to be in. Mm-hmm. But it opens more doors. It's either going to open more doors where baseball officials who do both sports are going to have to choose, okay, do I want to take this avenue and attempt to go this way to spring football, or do I stay baseball? Whichever way they go, it's going to open up an opportunity. So, you know, for me, it gives guys like me more of a chance to get seen and get recognized. I mean, right now, our avenue is, you know, do more high school games. You know, that most college programs want you to have at least 5 years experience before you can apply to even a D2 or D3 conference. So if you can do that, then that's just another way to get more experience and get more money, because we're talking about SEC officials are making, you know, 300, the top officials are making 800,000 a year for football for a season.
And that's college. So, yeah. Wow.
That's college. And so the more opportunities they are out there, the more need they are for officials, the more it opens up for everybody. So I think it's a really good idea. And it's a good way to get guys noticed. I mean, you know, you don't see it. Ed Hockley's not on the field this year. Like, he retired. Like, these guys are retiring out. And so now it's time for the new guys to move up. And if new guys are moving up from D1 programs or D2 programs, then again, it just kind of next man up. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see some of the new rules they put in.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's good, especially for the sport of football, because you have college, which is, you know, big, and then you have the NFL, and there's really no anywhere in between to get any kind of skill build up or anything. And with the baseball umpires, they have all the minor leagues to work up to and stuff like that, and they kind of graduate to the major leagues. But with NFL, it's like, if you don't land one of those big time gigs in college, you probably aren't going to get seen by any of the people that hire. So I agree. I think it would be a very good idea for them to kind of pick from XFL for refs and for everything else too. So it seems like refereeing is one of those things that, you know, people don't necessarily like, especially if they don't get a call for their team. And it's just one of those things that people don't really think of as an important necessity to the game. And I mean, if you've ever been on the losing side of a bad call, you really get to understand how important it is to have good refs and to have refs that know what they're doing. And what better way to do that than to have much more people that are capable of, you know, perfecting the craft.
Yeah. Refs are kind of like IT. No one really knows who is doing the IT, as long as everything's running fine, as long as the network is up and running, as long as the game is going along smoothly. No one really pays attention. It's whenever something goes wrong, that's whenever the blame starts to come out. You know, we had a commenter saying Angel Hernandez. Of course, Zach and I are big time baseball guys. We love the sport of baseball. We love football too, but we really love baseball, and we like to always try to you know, bring everything back to baseball eventually. And guys like Angel Hernandez, who consistently go out there and ruin games, like absolutely ruin things, but they still maintain a job at the highest level of the sport, when there are, you know, thousands and thousands of hungry up and coming guys like Ian, who can probably do just as good, if not better, than these guys. And the only reason that he sticks around is because he's tenured.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a club, I would imagine. And if you do your time, you get to have your, you know, you get to have your time in the spotlight, if you will, in the big leagues. And it doesn't seem like they take that away from anybody. Joe West just retired this year, and he was a guy who had some iffy calls too. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that's like just an old adage of those guys that aren't super great, but they've been around for so long that they just kind of let them slide. And that's just kind of a bad business, if you ask me.
You almost feel bad because I know for me, like, you never want to inject yourself into a game. So, I got told when I first started, the best official is one that's not seen.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy that's pointed out. And I've had times, especially in baseball, where I've been behind the plate and I've seen a ball that would throw me off. Like, it may be an inside curve or something like that. And I'm just like, I freeze and I'm like, I screwed that up. Or, maybe a play at second or third, or you're out of position, you're in the field and you're trying to move over. Because in high school and even, minor league, you're doing a 2-man crew. So if you're in the field, you're moving between what we call A position, which is no runners on base. You're behind first, to B position, where you're in between first and second. But you've got to cover, you've got the runner on first, so you've got the pickoff. You've got to watch second. And then if there's like a first to third play, you've got to come down and watch that. Or C position, which is between center and or second and third. There's a lot of times that you'll be out of position. You're trying to hustle to make a move, and you're out of position, and you don't have time to say, I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to make a call. And it's 50-50. You flip a coin, you're either right or you're wrong. And
Right.
whichever way you go, you're going to make somebody mad. And it wasn't until I got to high school level and even doing some college for a baseball, what you call affects somebody's job. They could lose that game. They don't make playoffs. That coach is fired.
Right. Yeah,
And so you want to be your best, every time.
Right. That's a good point, and I think that reigns true for every level of the game. If somebody makes a bad call and then that costs someone a playoff game or a big time game, some things are going to probably change in the organization unless they're just rock solid. And people also forget that referees are humans just like the rest of us. Everybody makes mistakes. You can't be perfect just because you're an official. And it's so easy to blame the refs, and you see people do that all the time, especially fans. They blame the refs for this loss, or they blame the refs for whatever. And it might be true every now and then, but at the end of the day, they're just people too, and they're just part of the game, and they're not robots. They can't be perfect. And I think that's, especially in the case of baseball, I think that's what makes it a more enjoyable experience, is to have a human element to the game. If you have a home plate umpire that likes to give strikes to a certain part of the plate, that's becomes part of the game, and you have to kind of adjust to it. So that's just something that people don't necessarily engage with and consider part of the game.
Consistency is a big thing. And I'll tell coaches during the plate meeting, I'm typically more of a low strike umpire than I am a high strike. I will typically give you more low than I will high, but I'll give it to you both ways. And I've had the coaches who've ripped me a new one from the dugout and didn't like my strike zone. But the thing is, like, it's not my job to conform to your pitcher's strike zone.
Right.
It's your pitcher's job to conform to my strike zone. As long as I keep it consistent for both teams, we're fine. But then you can tell the good coaches from the great coaches, because I've had coaches get mad about a strike. You can see their player will kind of huff or throw himself back. And the coach will yell out, hey, he's been calling that all day. What do you expect? And when they've got your back, it makes your job as an umpire easier, because they'll also set the tempo for the crowd. And I tell them that in any sport, how the coach goes is how the players go, is how the crowd goes. And if you don't learn game management, and game management's something big, if it's 15-1, I can't be sitting here calling, I can't be as tight on a pitcher. We've got to move this game.
Yep.
That's something a lot of people don't understand, is that game management key. And that's in football, that's in basketball, that's in baseball. That's a key element of that game, is that game management. And a lot of that comes from the umpire, it comes from the official.
Yeah, just like you were talking about, sometimes you're out of position. Maybe you didn't see it as clearly as you wanted to, but you still have to make the call and go on. You at the high school level, and probably even at the D2, D3 college levels, you're not going to have the benefit of replay. You're not going to have the benefit of all of this stuff that they have in the pros. plus you're a 2-man crew, like you mentioned. You've got to make that decision and go. You can't delay the game. That being said, we had a comment from Brad at the Pesky Report. He asked, have you ever had a delayed call behind the plate where a pitch comes in and you're just like, well, I guess that was a strike?
Yeah, I've had some that froze me. I think I've kind of got now where I just go with it. You just kind of feel it, and you just got to make that call. And I'm more hesitant on a strike call than I am a ball, because obviously, for me, I don't say nothing if it's a ball. So there've been times I've just been like, and I'm just like, okay, we're just going to go with it. And I just freeze, and then it registers in my head. And I'm like, oh crap, that was a good inside pitch, and I just missed it. Because young kids, where they tell them they get up on the plate, and they crowd that line on the batter's box. And so if you've got a pitcher that's really good that can hit that inside line, if you're not ready for it as an umpire, it looks like an inside pitch that's about to hit the batter, but it's because they're crowding the plate. So them will freeze you sometimes.
Yeah.
I haven't had them. I'm trying to think, delay. I've had a couple where I call somebody out and then I make the safe call and I'm like, well, wrong, my bad, wrong signal. And I've had to kind of reverse back on them, which them are always fun when you do that. I've had a couple of punch outs. Everybody's got their strike call. I kind of do a nice little one punch with one hand and then jerk back with the other one for my strike 3. I've had a couple of them on strike 2 and been like, oh crap, my bad.
That's funny.
My bad, strike 2.
That's your warning.
So that's always embarrassing when you ring a kid up and then you look down at your counter and you're like, yep. Yeah. That's embarrassing, because it's even worse if they do strike out the next time, because you're just like, 3. You just ring them out.
You don't punch them out with authority again?
No.
Here we go again.
I'm like, hey, it takes a long time to develop a good strike call. You want to be good with it and have it your own. I just pivot and turn and do a nice little punch.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
That's what I like. You got to make it your own. But them strike 2 calls, hey, I go with it, man. I'll punch them out on that strike 2, and I'm like, oh wait, my bad. You just gotta, you're gonna make a mistake, make it big.
Yep, brush it off.
Absolutely. Have you ever seen any guys that go on to play in the minor leagues or in the big leagues or anything? Have you ever officiated any of those games?
I've done a couple fill-ins for like UNC Asheville, Mars Hill, Brevard College, that they needed somebody, and so then they picked up a local guy. I got a chance to do a little bit of JUCO, so that was fun. As far as players, I probably couldn't tell you who I've done that probably made it, because really, I don't want to. I've learned this too. You don't want to like star watch. You want to see who you possibly have, because I want to keep it consistent with everybody. So I really don't care who's up there.
That's smart.
That's good. That's a good way to be.
I really couldn't. 90% of the time, I couldn't even tell you where we are in the batting order if I'm behind the plate.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. That makes a lot of sense. It doesn't matter who's up and what type of position and what they're playing for. You just be consistent with everybody. That's
which shows you the opposite of sports, because basketball, you're the exact opposite way. Basketball, you're told as an official to watch during warm-ups the players and see who the stars are, because you may have, especially during high school, you may have a kid out there that's being scouted out. And if you call 2 or 3 quick fouls on him and he has to sit the first half, you've messed it up. And so it's weird how the sports are different with that. But
so he's allowed to play sloppy because he's potentially getting scouted.
Yeah, I mean, if you got 2 guys in the area and maybe he took a hack or got a hold of somebody going up for a layup, maybe you call it on the other guy. Again, game management. I mean, I'm not going to. I'll own up to it. I've done it. I had a girl that was her senior night Thursday. Her senior, she only senior in the school. She got a quick foul in the first. I called a quick foul on her within a minute of the game. Not even a minute and a half later, a girl went in for a layup. There was 2 of them there. She was the one that got the hold, but I called it on the other girl because game management. If I call too quick on her, that's I'm pulling her probably out of the game right there. 3 minutes into the first quarter.
Yeah, learn how to play right.
What's the foul out for high school?
It's 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they'll bench him for a while.
Yeah.
If they get a couple quick ones.
But I mean,
Yeah.
again, every ref's got their strategy. For basketball, I tend to let them play unless it's something that directly affects the shot. I tell them, if you shoot the ball and 5 seconds later I hear this, I'm not calling it because it's not affecting the shot. Please, for everybody that watches, over the back is not a foul. Stop yelling at me that it's a foul. It's never been a foul. It's not in the rule book. Stop. Just stop. That's probably the worst thing I hear that gets on my nerves the most is over the back. I'm so glad basketball's over.
That's funny.
But
I
yeah,
know I like to heckle the referees whenever I go to games too, and I constantly yell, "That's traveling!"
Oh yeah,
even if it's
3
not.
seconds, 3 seconds. But it's crazy how different each sport is, and I'll own up, for basketball, I was not prepared for the mental aspect of it. Basketball, I probably just got done doing. I think I've done somewhere about 36 games the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you're doing 3 and 4 games. If you're doing, a lot of times I was doing all 4, 2 JVs, 2 varsities, and the fans are right up on you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, it can be mentally just exhausting. By the time Thursday, Friday rolls around, you are a lot shorter with coaches than you were on Monday, Tuesday, because you're hearing it and you're hearing so much of it, and the crowd's right on you. And I've done baseball, and there's a fence and it kind of divides you, and you may have to worry about coaches. Or football, you really have to worry about coaches. But basketball, man, that's a whole nother beast. I mean, fans are right on you. And
Yeah.
I was not, that was
moms
crazy.
and
I was not
dads.
prepared for that.
Yeah.
All the parents and all the friends that come to the games, and everybody's just yelling at you for making that bad call in their eyes.
I was at a high school, and I went to the scores table, and I was like, I'm nervous tonight. And he goes, why? He goes, what's wrong? And I said, man, we got NBA scouts out here watching us. And he goes, really? That's cool. I said, oh wait, no, that's a bunch of parents. And like it blows my mind that we're so short for officials. And I told a parent, I actually told a parent one time, I said, why yell at me for free? You paid to get in here. Why not make these calls and you can get a check too?
Yeah, that's a great point. Have you had any parents just go completely crazy on you?
Yeah, I threw one out at Mitchell.
Wow.
Refereeing at Mitchell is one of the hardest places for me to go, because that's where my son goes. It's where I went to school. I live here. They just kept on and kept on and kept on. And I warned them. I said, hey, enough's enough. And I'm fine with heckling. But when you make it personal, if you single me out and you say something directly to me, then I have a problem. And at the half of the boys' game, of the varsity, he just said something right at halftime, and I couldn't even. I don't even know if I could tell you what he said. And I was like, nope. And I pointed him out, pointed at the sheriff's deputy, and I was like, he's gone. I was like, I've had enough. And that's that gets on the personal side of it. Like, I don't think a lot of parents realize we are short for officials. And doing basketball, I was literally going from work to a school. And if I was doing 4 games, I wasn't getting home till like 11:30. I wasn't seeing my kids.
Jeez.
And then getting up and doing it all the next day. And it would irritate me. I'm like, hey, I'm here so you can watch your kids play while my 6-year-old girl, or my 5-year-old girl, is playing for the first time, and I'm missing it. So I can be here to watch yours. And so you can have a game. And I don't think that's what parents realize. Like, I don't care if your kid wins or loses. I really don't. It does not bother me one bit. But, when you start calling me out, or you start saying things like, that does, you try not to let it affect you, but it does to a point.
Oh, sure.
It will make you very, very hesitant sometimes. And it will affect the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it does.
Now, I'm sure you're aware of the news that's going on out of the college basketball world with Juwan Howard and the coach of the Michigan Wolverines, and the altercation that happened playing against the Wisconsin Badgers. What do you think of that situation, and how would you handle that as a referee? Clearly, it was after the game when everything happened, so referee is kind of like, well, my hands are clean of this, but how, like, if this occurred at a game that you were officiating, how would you interject?
So I don't know what led up to that. I didn't watch it, but I did see the highlights of the fight. In high school, you can have a post-game ejection, and I actually had to do one of those. So until the referees actually clear the floor in basketball, you can have a post-game ejection. And I had a coach that came up and started an altercation with me and my partner in basketball and was just mad about some calls. And we ended up tossing him. He said, you can't do that. But I was like, yeah, I can, because we haven't cleared. This right here, though, this gets back into without seeing it. I think you nipped this in the bud with game management. I think it was the coach that called a timeout and they were upset about that. But I think most coaches and officials and players, the flow of the game. There's going to be them nuances and stuff that you just got to kind of let go.
Mm-hmm.
As an official, I'm on the other end of the court taking numbers and stuff because I'm going to have one heck of a report to write after this is over. But I don't know. I think too many people get mad about these unwritten rules and stuff, and they don't realize the game flow, the game management side of it, that they are other things that go on. There's a lot of unwritten rules, and this transways in baseball that people still get highly, highly, highly upset about. And really, there's no part of it in the game anymore.
Yeah.
To Brad's comment that he should be fired, I just saw on Twitter that he is suspended for the remaining 5 games of the regular season.
He got a technical for touching a ball while it was in play and then blowing it off. Like, so the guy obviously, I've said this before, coaches need to take the same test that officials take. I have to take a test to be an official. If I want to referee varsity games, I have to make at least an 80 on a state test. If I want to do a state playoff game, I have to make at least a 90. You got coaches who don't even know the rules. If you are not paying attention enough and you touch a live ball while it's in play, or you do this or do that, you don't need to be a coach, because you obviously don't know what's going on. You're not paying attention to the game.
Especially at that level. I mean, especially at a Big Ten school like that, that's a big deal. He's in a big time position, and he clearly has other intentions or other ideas about the game and about himself in the game. It seems like to me that he made a big deal out of that for whatever reason. And yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any room for that in sports of any level, especially the collegiate level. Like
collegiate and high school, the coach should never put themselves above the players, because really at them levels, it's about, and little league and below, it's about the players. It's about teaching them the right way. It's about, especially if you're in college, it's about trying to move these guys to the next level. Mm-hmm. And with his actions just the last week, I mean, he's making it about him. It's his show.
Yeah.
And if we're being honest, if Juwan Howard was going to be upset at any timeout ever in his career, he should have really been upset at Chris Webber.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, this is a flashback to the 1993 college national championship game. Here's Chris Webber right there, number 4. He just had a little faux pas, but as he's going to be falling out of bounds, he calls a timeout. He does not have a timeout. He receives the technical foul, and Michigan loses the college basketball championship.
That's called the official gods smiling down and bailing them officials out for the missed travel.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, them officials are going, thank you. Thank you.
Very much so, because
I wouldn't be
was
surprised
a travel.
If Chris Webber went down there and asked him if he had a timeout, and the official was like, yeah, you got one.
Yeah, you got it.
You're good.
But if Juwan Howard's going to be upset over a timeout, that's the one he should have really been upset about, because that cost him a national title.
Just quick question, which is a bigger bonehead play, that play or the Cleveland Cavaliers when oh gosh,
J.R. Smith.
Yeah, when J.R. Smith ran it out. Same thing.
Those are pretty well matched right there for dumb plays.
And what's bad is as an official, sometimes you'll get looked at and they're like, do something, and I'm going, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Because sometimes like that travel call, you'll see something so stupid that really by the time your brain registers what you just saw, and you process it, you miss it because you're going, what just happened? And then by then it's too late and you just got to go on.
Yeah. Yeah. Moved on already. That's funny.
Just for the sake of posterity, we'll go ahead and show J.R. Smith's big gaff as well, where he runs the ball out with like 4 seconds, and then they're forced to throw up a wild 3-pointer. James was wide open, calling for the ball, doesn't know what's going on. So you asked what's the bigger like oh crap moment. I think it's still got to be Chris Webber, because that was the championship game, the deciding game. This was game 1 of the NBA Finals. Yeah. You still had more chances after that. This wasn't a decisive game 7 or anything like that. So I think the one and done of college basketball makes that one a little bit more severe.
But now, if you want another baseball story, I have been an official on a blown call for a championship game. And that was rough. And what's bad is when you make the right call and it's your partner who messes up. So I was doing a travel ball all-star, regional all-star, Southeast regional all-star game. And so it was a championship between South Carolina and Georgia. And so I'm gonna paint this picture. I'm gonna see what you guys would do. Okay. So you got runners on second and third. All right. Tie ball game. 2 outs. You're in what we call C position. So you are in between second and third, because that's where you are when runners are on base. Ball is hit to the third baseman on the shortstop side. Third baseman goes over. He goes to tag the runner at third, or running from second to third, right? Okay. That runner steps on the grass, right? He cuts in to avoid the tag, steps on the grass, slides in. Now the third baseman tries to go to first. The runner's safe at first. The runner scored from third to home to make it a game, to win the game. What do you got? What are your thoughts on what happened?
I'd have to look at the rule book, but depending on how far the base runner can run off of his, line,
if he touches the grass, he should be out of the base path.
That's what I would.
Did the run score before he stepped on the grass?
All right, so there's your key part. I'll give you a cookie after this, Brandon. I called him out for being out of the base path. So as you know, from home to first is the only base path that actually has the designated baseline. You have to be inside the box at the 45-foot mark. From first to second, second to third, third to home, the runner designates their own base path. So as they're starting to that base, they straight line it from where they start. You give them 3 feet to either way. I call the runner out from going outside what he had deemed his baseline. We call this a timing play. So a lot of times you'll see umpires point to their watch to let them know, hey, we got a timing play. We got 2 outs. So if we end up with a play that's not a force and a tag, we got a timing situation. The umpire from home plate comes up to third base thinking that we're about to have a rundown between third and second, when that runner does not matter at all. So I call the batter out when he went out of the base path. We now get into a 20-minute discussion where the head umpire overrules me and says that he didn't see the runner touch home before I called the player out, but that you could not assume that the runner didn't score before the batter went out of the base path. So we ended up in this is a big championship game. We end up in this 30-minute stall trying to figure out the rule on this.
Jeez.
And it ends up, that affects the game. And, that ended up being the game. My take on the rule was I was advocating for the coach. You have to assume that all runners' speeds are the same. So if you assume that all runner runs the same speed, then if the runner from second to third is 2/3 of the way to third base, when I call him out, you have to assume that the runner from third to home is 2/3 of the way to home.
Yeah.
And therefore he would have been out and not score.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
But that's some of those things in baseball. You just got to, my partner was the head official on that game, and you just kind of you've got to go with it, and it sucks, but you learn, and that's the nuances of the game that people don't realize. There's a lot of stuff in play, a lot of places that you've got to be, and a lot of things you've got to see and be recognizing.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So the end result was that they ruled that the runner scored.
Oh yeah, and what was worse was after the 30-minute call, I turn around and the home plate umpire was already leaving the field, heading up to our locker room, and so I had to be the one that kind of pointed to home and made the safe call to let them know that run scored.
That's a BS move, because if you're the home plate guy and you're the chief whatever thing, and it's your call and it's your decision, you should have to stand up there and catch the heat for it. So I don't know the guy, but it sounds like that guy could use a little bit of a refresher.
Oh man, it was rough.
Yeah, but that sucks.
Learning moment though.
Yeah,
for sure. Have you ever had a game where you were calling and there was a dude that was just absolutely dealing, and it was one of those like every pitch he threw was just a gem, and you were like, wow, there's nobody that's going to touch this guy? Have you ever officiated a perfect game, no hitter, anything like that?
I've done a one hitter. Have not been behind the plate for a no hitter. There was a kid in Morganton who he could hit the inside corner, and he had command. And what he would do, he done the same thing for every batter. It was inside corner for strike one. He would throw it outside for strike two. And then on the third pitch, he'd come right back inside and he'd just freeze them. Wow. And he had command. I mean, it wasn't a case of like, oh, ball one, ball two, strike one. I mean, it was three. Yeah. I mean, he made it easy that night.
Have you seen this highlight yet?
No. Is
this kid is a sophomore, and he was just absolutely dealing. If you follow John Boy on Twitter, if you follow Jared Carabas on Twitter, they've all kind of retweeted his like little 2-minute clip or whatever. And the kid is throwing major league stuff. It was beautiful.
See, that inside pitch is nasty. And a lot, our pitchers, that's where I tell them, I'm like, you get them inside, because you see even where these guys are standing, their back foot's right on the line. Oh, yeah. In high school, you don't see a lot of guys that can turn on one. At this age, you ought to be able to turn on inside fastball. But if anybody is wanting to be a pitcher, that right there is where you need to work on, because if you can hit your corners and oh God, see, that is sick.
Yeah, that's nasty, that. Right?
Filthy, man.
And you know what? You're going to get more calls if you can be, again, consistent. If you can be consistent like that, man, that right there, that might have been a little inside, but that is a nasty pitch. And if you're throwing that all the game, you're going to get it. And that's another thing coaches don't understand. If your pitcher's up here and he throws 8 balls to the outside, and then one's a little bit closer than the other ones, I'm probably not going to bail him out as much as I am a pitcher who's just nailing that corner consistently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And again, that translates to all sports. Basketball is the worst for it. You see somebody trying to split a double team, and they just go crazy. I'm not going to bail your guy out for making a boneheaded play. So don't look at me and yell at me because you want a call, because your guy just went stupid and tried to split 2 defenders with a Euro step when you're a freshman. You
got to earn that step.
Yeah, you got to earn that call.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard about it all our lives. Like, oh, he's getting the Jordan call, or he's getting the Kobe call, or he's getting the LeBron call, or whatever. But those guys are superstars. You're not going to give that call to Delonte West, which happy to report that he's actually doing a lot better now. But he's not going to get the same kind of calls that LeBron was getting.
Yeah.
Except for from LeBron's mom. But that's another story.
And if I see guys, a lot of times, like you'll see guys underneath, they'll get a rebound and they kind of do that. I call it a turtle shell. Like, I'm going to disappear if I could go down. But, they kind of duck with the ball. Mm-hmm. And then they go back up and they may get hit. And, I've told coaches, I'm like, do you want that call hit, or do you want me to let it play out? Because usually what happens is that guy goes up, comes down, hits your player while he's in that little crouch. And then your player goes up and scores. So we can stop the play and you'll have the ball out of bounds, or I can just let it play out. You get the 2 points and we go on.
That's fun.
That goes back to game management. Like, what's your preference? Do you want to have this guy be on the line, potentially shooting 1-and-1s, or are you going to have him, put that layup up, get the 2 points, get back on D? That's a good way to approach it. And I think that if more referees had that mentality, I think that high school sports would be a lot more seamless, and then that would also make officiating at the higher levels even better if they took the ego out of it and just said, hey, what's the best way to approach this call? You got guys like your Joe West, your CB Buckners and Angel Hernandez's, and then the NFL has their list of bad referees and stuff like that. But these guys can't get out of their own way because they think they're bigger than the game themselves. And I think that's part of the detriment of why everybody always hates the Zebras. And it's because a lot of the time it's the ego.
And that's watching the Super Bowl. You're talking about the NFL like that. I'm a new official for football, but that blows my mind because that goes against everything that, we're taught. If you're not going to call a game a certain way, don't start calling it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I loved the first half of that game. They let them play. They didn't interject at all. And then there at the end, they really got involved.
Yeah, you can't tighten up the game because players are going to play the game on how you're calling it. And that's for any sport. If I'm calling, them low strikes, that's how a pitcher's going to pitch. If I'm calling basketball, if I'm letting them play down low, then that's what they're going to expect. They're going to the coach is going to get upset when I start calling ticky-tack calls. If I'm going to call defensive holding or pass interference, I better make sure I'm calling it from the start.
Right.
Because I'm not going to let them sit there and jostle back and forth for 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden the fourth quarter be like, oh, we're going to tighten it down because these players for 15, 30, 45 minutes have been playing a game a certain way that you're allowing them to play it. And now you're changing the rule on them.
Yep.
You're saying now that's not allowed when before you could.
I didn't like that at all in the Super Bowl. And I think a lot of people had an issue with that. And I don't want to get conspiratorial or anything like that, but when a game is called a certain way, and then at the end, when everything is about to be decided, they start changing stuff up, it makes people start wondering and start talking. And that's just a bad look any way you look at it. I don't think it's rigged or anything like that, but that kind of stuff just gives ammo to people that do think that way. And refs already have a bad enough time as it is. Stuff like that really does get in the way of a game. And who knows what would have happened if they would have just let them play that out like they had been for 3 quarters. You know what I mean?
And it gives a bad name all the way down, even to our level, because people just assume that they just group us together. I don't get paid like a Super Bowl official, but they just group us all together because they think, okay, well, you're just in it for yourself, or you're in it for this team, or you're in it for, oh, they seen you talking to this coach a little bit longer than you talk to this coach.
Right.
And so you've got something in there. And really it's not. I've built relationships with coaches, through basketball, through football, through baseball. Just because I'm talking to one doesn't mean, I'm going to give him a favorable call over you. But, fans see that. And that's something you've got to learn. I've had to learn and still learning. You've got to kind of know when to talk to them, when not to talk to them. How much to take, how much, I've teed up Mitchell Warren. You remember? I don't know if you remember him, Brandon, from Mitchell, the drafting coach. Mitch Warren.
No, I don't remember.
Or the drafting teacher. So like I've teed up people right there where my son goes to school and has I've teed up one of his teachers. So I don't care. Like once that game starts, we may be friendly and we may be nice, but I have a job that I have to do.
Yeah. And that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. It sounds like, you've definitely carved out a niche for yourself there in Western North Carolina as an official and now as a coach. What do you prefer doing? What do you have a preferred sport that you like? You talked earlier about, you kind of sometimes have to pick a lane to be in. Do you have a sport that you would prefer stick with, or do you just enjoy doing it all right now?
If I had a choice, if somebody came down and said I got to pick what I got to do, I love doing football officiating. But the opportunity to coach baseball, when I was asked, it literally gave me cold chills. Like it, gave me goosebumps, because that used to be, 10 years ago, that used to be only positions for PE teachers or science teachers or so. It used to be something that was only for teachers. You didn't, if you weren't a teacher, you weren't a coach.
Yeah.
And so that opportunity kind of, that got me excited to be on that side of it again, to have that experience of going in and trying to compete and win. So you're part of the game as an official, but being part of it as a coach, now I get to see, okay, let's work hard. Let's make a state playoff. Let's make a state playoff run, and to compete. And that competitiveness is really exciting too. Basketball, I'm gonna put third. Man, I can't. This year, parents have been bad. Maybe after the season's over, come talk to me 2 months from now, and maybe I'll be like, I miss basketball. But man, I'm glad that's over.
That makes sense.
Football first, baseball second, basketball third. That's how I'd rank it.
And now that you're just doing the coaching of baseball, and the officiating is kind of done for the season, are you going to get back to more of your growing up 8-bit and going back to streaming some more video games and stuff like that?
Yeah, I started back. I went through the whole just wore out phase from just running around. I was doing games, football. I was doing games Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and then a lot of times I was doing baseball on Saturdays, Sundays too. So I was double dipping games. So I was just tired. So yeah, I'll be back on Saturdays and Sundays now, doing just the weekends, trying to keep it where still fun, still get the family time, and but then still can do the streaming.
Yeah, I think that's a
cool.
good way of doing it, especially how busy you are with coaching and refereeing and stuff like that. I can't imagine trying to squeeze in an hour or however long to try to stream the game. Jeez, your wife must just really love you.
Oh yeah. I'm never home. I mean, I've got here you go. I've got this right here, right next to me. I just picked it up today. I don't know if the green screen's going to cut out. March Madness
98. Wow, that's a
$2.
There you go.
With Tim Duncan on the front.
Yep, I actually have that game in my little game compartment down in the garage right now with all my old PlayStation games. Yeah, I have that exact same game. Yeah.
The NCAA, NCAA baseball. If you want a baseball game to play, that game right there. If you have not played it, you can create your own team, create your own park. You can argue calls. You can even get ejected. That is my baseball recommendation. If you want an old school baseball game, find the NCAA baseball.
Yeah,
because you can recruit, put your own team into its own division and create your own baseball field.
That's pretty legit.
Maybe we need to make a ready break team and have it featured on an upcoming episode here. With us with no football, no baseball right now, we don't really have too much to talk about. So
hey, hockey season.
Yeah, hockey.
Yeah,
basketball.
Come on!
It's not the same. It's just not the same. At least for us.
NASCAR just started yesterday. We got to expand out. Got to get you guys going.
We do actually have a car that has our logo on it that races in the virtual racing leagues. So that's kind of cool. Shout out Jordan Owens, who drives the number 45 Ready Break Chevy, and it's pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever seen any of that.
How does that work? Do they have like a wheel and like a
that's legit. They got the whole setup, the wheel,
they have like a simulation type setup thing.
Yeah, the gear shift and everything, man. You got little virtual spotters and you got the headset. I mean, that's
cool.
Way more money than I want to put into it though with a rig.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's the car right there with our logo on the hood. Pretty cool that we can see it driving around on the tracks and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It's fun. We're actually going to be doing a deal pretty soon with the Elite Racing League, and our name is going to be all over one of their broadcasts as we're one of the official sponsors of one of their races, and that's coming up in March, I believe.
Oh, well,
So
that's pretty
that'll
sweet.
be a lot of fun. Yeah, we don't watch NASCAR or anything, but that's as much as we really dip into the racing.
The Ready Break 150.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know what it will be, but I think it's the week that they're doing. I think it's the Dover track that they're racing that we got dibs on. So I don't know. It's cool.
I can feel the excitement.
Yeah, but like I said, we really don't have too much to talk about. So I would love to maybe get something going like that, to where maybe we could throw up a video game and we could, talk about refereeing, talk about baseball, talk about football, whatever, and just have some games going. And it would be great if there would be a way to where we could all play the game together and just talk while we're playing it. I don't know. Maybe we could set something up.
What NCAA baseball game were you talking about specifically?
I think it's NCAA Baseball 06.
Okay, nice.
It was like the last one that was made. It's on original
Xbox.
MVP Baseball. They 07. That was the last one.
I think a guy from Texas was on the cover of it. I think I remember it.
Guy from Texas was on 06.
Yeah. 06. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I don't know if I ever played any of those, but I have heard good things.
Yeah, they are fun. And then you got to watch out, because some of those NCAA basketball games, the last ones that were made, they are worth some money now.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Maybe a year or two ago, I picked up the last NCAA football game that was made, and it was like $30-$40.
And NCAA college basketball 2K3 on the oddest basketball one I guess you could think of for GameCube. Right now is worth $255. I just looked it up.
That's insane.
I mean, that blows my mind. So don't discount just because Madden. Don't discount,
Right. Was that the last one they made? Was 03?
It may have been. That may have been why. NCAA football, of course, the last one that they made, that one's ridiculous. That one's up $100. So you can. Some of them are pretty high.
My fear.
I still have my copy of NCAA football 14.
Yeah.
I have mine that's autographed by Hoist Gracie, because that was all I had for him to sign.
That reminds me of the Step Brothers scene where he gets a samurai sword signed by
Randy Jackson.
Yeah,
that's all. You're not going to get his autograph.
You're not going to get Hoist Gracie's signature.
I walked out of a GameStop, and it was right next to a Japanese steakhouse, and he was coming out, and that was the only thing I had in my hand.
That's amazing. I love that.
That's fantastic.
I mean, it's unique. It's a one of one.
Oh yeah,
absolutely it is. You should just post it on eBay just to see how much you could get out of it.
Yeah, it's got to be worth some money. That's funny.
But Ian, I appreciate you coming on and joining the show tonight and talking to us a little bit about refereeing and coaching and all that stuff. We wish you and the Avery Bears good luck this season. Hope you do, make that state championship run, and come back anytime. Let us know what's going on, and we'll try to plan something in the future for maybe creating that team.
For sure.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And thanks to all the people out there that have been commenting and listening along with us. We look forward to having good news from the baseball front to talk about in the coming weeks. And we hope that eventually comes to fruition. Like we mentioned earlier, they had a long meeting today. Rumors has it they argued more about who was going to pay for the pizza than they did actual baseball talk, but it is what it is. We'll get something out of this. We hope. Zach, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope, I'm all good.
All right, we will see you guys next week. Ready, break.